Episode 46 of the State of the Old Republic podcast was originally recorded on July 14th, 2017. It's the State of the Old Republic podcast. This week on the show, why wait another season when you can apply to the Academy this year? I have a special guest who will show you how to do just that. Game Update 5.3 is out. I'll give you my impressions of the new Stronghold, decorations, classes, and more. And finally, this week, Keith Koenig responded to changes to legacy weapons and crystals and tunings. I'll tell you what he had to say and the changes that are planned for Game Update 5.4. And with that, it's time to make the jump to Lightspeed and check out the State of the Old Republic. Well, welcome to episode 46 of the State of the Old Republic podcast. I'm your host, Ted, and as you heard in the opening, I have an amazing show lined up for you today. I have a very special guest joining me today, and I know you'll be excited to hear what she has to say about Star Wars: The Old Republic. Now, before I get to that, let's quickly review some announcements for The Old Republic. The Summer of SWTOR is in full swing. The Nar Shaddaa Nightlife event, yeah, it's still happening, so go out there and win some more decos for your new Manaan retreat. The Double CXP event is set to kick off on July 18th and run through the 25th. Time to dust off those alts and level them through Galactic Command. The Rakghoul Plague Outbreak on Tatooine will run from July 25th through August 1st. And finally, Game Update 5.4 will go live sometime in August. So that's it for the Summer of SWTOR. I've got one other announcement, and that's the folks from Bad Feeling Podcasts are at it again. A new ops boss means a new contest. Brian and Chuck have put out a bounty on Aivela and Esne, so just send a screenshot of your kill to Brian at badfeelingpodcast.com, and you will have a chance to win 200 million credits. Story mode screenshots count as one entry, and hard mode screenshots count as two. The contest runs from July 11th through July 26th. So that's all the announcements that I have. Let's slice the HoloNet and review the news this week. Joining me this week is someone who needs no introduction, but I'm doing it anyway. She is the president and dean and, dare I say, headmistress of the SWTOR Academy, the one and only Swtorista. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure to have you, and I am definitely long overdue to bring some guests onto the show, and you were by far the perfect choice to be my first guest because you've really helped to promote the podcast lately, and it's gained some much needed attention. And again, I really do appreciate you doing that. So thank you for and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. My whole video channel actually stems from listening to different podcasts and especially being able to read all the different blog posts people make and seeing other videos people make. So I really enjoy sharing the cool stuff that I found that other people make too.
Well, it's a wonderful community, and like I say, I try and listen to as many of the different podcasts and check out all the different content that the folks in the community are out there creating, because it really is some good stuff. It brings total awareness to all the things that are happening in the game, and generates some hype, and you learn a lot of things too. I learned tons of things by watching not just your videos and listening to what the other folks have to say about the game. I learn new things about it all the time. And I've been playing for 5 years now, I think, since day one, really. And I'm surprised at how much stuff there is that I didn't know about. And a lot of it's because of the stuff that folks like you do, with all the content that you create.
There's so many hidden parts of the game that you barely see if you're just playing the class stories and not much else. There's all kinds of crazy little hidden quests. There's things like reputation where you might not know about if you don't even open the window. Just so many sites and so many blogs. And the more we share, the more people can find out and enjoy the game.
And speaking of sharing, so I was funny, and like I said, you're known for, and we'll talk about this in a minute, for doing, of course, videos over at your YouTube site about all various aspects of the game. And you did one recently where you had opened, you bought a hyper crate of one of the new, packs. I think it was the Dread Warlords pack, which is a great pack, by the way. I even purchased
I like that one. Yes. A+.
Myself, but I was watching the video and I was just floored by the gazillion cartel coins that you had, and you even alluded to it yourself, and that was just I think you had like over 200,000+ cartel coins. I was just, holy moly.
It's gotten a little ridiculous. I've always been able to share my referral code through whatever projects I've been working on at the time, so I always had a nice little steady flow of cartel coins. I was able to afford a hyper crate here and there, but when I started making the videos, I made a video specifically explaining to people how the referral system works and how you can take advantage of it and use it and who can use it, stuff like that, just explaining all the ins and outs of it. And as people came to my channel, especially new players seeking content for new players, they were able to use the referral link. And yeah, it's over 200,000 now. And what's crazy is at 10,000 subscribers, I decided to do a giveaway, and I'd already given away like 30,000 coins, so it just keeps growing exponentially. So at this point, I try to pretend they're not there, because otherwise it would break the entire game for me. I could just have anything I wanted in the world, and I'm just hoping to have another party at 20,000 subscribers and hopefully give a lot of them away.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I don't know, I would have a hard time just hanging on to all that too. I mean, just unlocking things in your account collection, if nothing else, would probably be my primary use. I would just buy everything I could with the cartel coins and then just unlock everything and not even think about it and just push the button and do it.
It definitely does help a lot when I'm making the videos, because I no longer have to worry about grinding out for credits, because I've always had to do the heroics. I was never the best at playing the GTN, so I'd no longer have to spend time doing that. Now if I want to go research something, I can just go buy whatever I need. For example, I just did an episode about the bounty hunter event, and I was like, oh, this has some really cool rewards you can get. I have the right reputation rank, but I don't have enough of the completed bounty contracts, and apparently you can buy those on the GTN. So I went and bought over 300 completed bounty contracts across the various servers, and very easy to do when you have that many cartel coins.
I would imagine that's right. You just transfer from one server to the other and grab up, scoop up the bounty contracts. That's a good idea. I know a lot of people that actually take advantage of the character transfers, because it's only like 90 cartel coins, which really isn't that much. And I know people that will go to another server just to sell their stuff and buy things too, but primarily to sell stuff where they know people are buying because they're not having any luck on their current server, selling like items. Not enough people are buying them.
Definitely worth it to flip around and see what the servers cost and how much you can sell and buy stuff for.
So with that hyper crate, like I said, I watched some of the video. I didn't catch the whole thing, but like I said, I had bought one too. How was your luck with the items that did you?
This one was pretty interesting, because this is the one where they switched up the algorithm for what's in the packs, and so you get an extra kind of item from them. So I was pretty happy, because I felt like I just got a lot of stuff. Not all of it was good stuff, but I felt like I got a ton of stuff I could play with or look through and sell. And I did get the really cool tuning from this pack, and I was really excited to see that, because I've never had a tuning drop from a pack before.
Yeah, me neither. I've never seen a tuning drop from a pack. In fact, I really haven't played around with tunings all that much, and I've talked about this on prior podcasts. I think they're neat. They're a cool idea, and there's one in there I saw that had the effect was like a strap. It looked really cool.
Yeah, it's very neat.
Off of guns. I don't know what it looks like on a lightsaber, but off the guns it would look very cool. But they're just so darn expensive.
They are
on the GTN.
So expensive.
I think upwards of 10, 20, I don't know, 20 million plus. I mean, I never know what's a lot of credits in this game anymore, to be honest with you. I don't know if with the inflation, so I don't know if I'm rich or poor or whatever. I just, it used to be that I would check the GTN. I'd look for like the most expensive item on there, and if I had enough credits to buy that, not that I would, I felt I was in pretty good shape. And now, it's definitely gotten to the point where I could not like purchase whatever the most expensive item is.
Yeah, now the most expensive items on my server are probably around 150 mil to 200 million. I don't have that many credits either, so let's both be kind of pretend poor together.
Yeah, but the hyper crates, they did change their algorithm so that you would get more stuff, and the idea was hopefully you'd get more items specific to the pack. And I never know. Like I said, I've heard people liken these things to scratch off lottery tickets, which to me is fine, but I always sort of feel like it's more like ordering food from the drive-thru, which is that you pull up to the window and you place your order. It's like, oh, I want that Gifted Shadows armor set, or the Tithian Disciples armor set, or that Tithe lightsaber spike. And then you get your hyper crate and you drive away, and then you go home and open it, and then nothing that you were hoping for, nothing that you ordered is in there. And it's not to say that you don't get anything good. Just, I don't know. I just never feel like I really get what I want out of these things. I'm sort of left, always feel a little bit disappointed by the experience. And then I have to go. It's not a bad problem to have in that, there are things that I can then turn around and sell and try and make the money so I can go purchase the things that I want. But, I always feel like, just never quite getting exactly what I was hoping to get out of these things.
Keep getting your little doggy bags full of Jawa scraps. I always recommend if people want a specific item, I say just wait about give or take a week after the Hyper Crate comes out seems to be the sweet spot and just straight up buy it. If you have the cartel coins, buy the packs or buy CXP boosts or character unlock tokens, sell those, and with credits, buy what you want, because there's no point playing the random game if you want a specific item. Personally, I really enjoy the Hyper Crates. I'm an absolute junkie when it comes to goodie bags, so these are just the virtual extension of those, and I like the act of opening them and seeing what's inside and all the new items, but yeah, no buying them if you don't like the RNG. Not worth it.
And it's funny, I'm the same way, because I'll get a Hyper Crate, I'm like, I really should just either get the individual packs and sell them by themselves on the GTN, or just put the Hyper Crate up there and sell them. But I can't do it. I have to go look inside. It's just fun opening them up to see what I get. I got real lucky one time, not with a Hyper Crate, but I had some cartel coins and I said, I forget which pack it was, but I bought 3 individual packs hoping to get what was it? It was the Unstable Arbiter's Peacemaker's lightsaber, and it dropped out of the second pack.
Oh my, lucky.
That was ridiculous. I swore at that point I would never ever complain about
RNG
cartel
ever
packs again. Yeah, not after that. So good stuff. So let's talk about then the SWTOR Academy, and I think most people know all about it, but why don't you just quickly give an overview tell the listeners of what it is. What is the SWTOR Academy?
It is a series of videos specifically for newer players or players who haven't heard about certain parts of the game. So I focus on specific elements like, for example, the Bounty Contract Week. This is one of the recent ones I did. And there's all kinds of really basic things like how to get started on crafting. What are flashpoints in hard mode operations? How do I use the chat system? All kinds of stuff like that.
So you're like the in-game tutorial, only like 1,000 times more interesting then.
Yeah, pretty much. This is a substitute for the in-game tutorial because those just aren't that great. They don't really get you started and they don't tell you the stuff you actually need to know.
No, and most people I don't really spend much time looking at them. And quite frankly, if they can't describe what I need to do in like 1 or 2 panes, if I have to, click, I'm done.
I think I gave up on them when GSF came out and they were popping up while I was trying to fly my plane.
Oh, right. Exactly. I know I think it still does that. If you go into GSF and you just pull up the tutorial, the in-game tutorial where you actually get to fly the ship and learn the controls, I think the stuff still pops up in there while you're doing that, which is annoying. So what prompted you to start all this and start the SWTOR Academy? Like
I mentioned earlier, I really enjoy listening to podcasts about Star Wars The Old Republic, and one of my favorites is Utini Cast by Tio and Chill, and one of the listeners called in, probably near episode 200 or so, and said, could you guys cover a little bit more for newer players? Because both of them have been playing for 4 or more years, and they usually cover mostly the news or the topics of the time, and most of those kind of topics are for veteran players, not for the brand new players. And I was like, that's something I could do. So I started writing and recording audio for them, and I also wanted to learn how to do video, so I figured the audio would be a perfect thing to try to do video for.
And so your videos are very good. Did it take long to figure out how to do all that? How long does it take you to put together one of your videos now?
When I first started, it probably took me like 2 weeks just to make one video, like 2 weeks straight. It was pretty ridiculous. I had to learn from scratch. I'd never touched a video editor before, or recorded any audio, or written any scripts, or used YouTube before. And now it's a lot higher quality, so I do spend quite a bit of time on it. I'd say probably about 8 hours for the better, longer videos.
So that's not too bad. So it sounds like you've got like a good process in a good rhythm to it, and that's good. And then for those listening out there, if you've ever thought about, I think one of the things that sort of you and I and anyone else who's doing a podcast or creating content out there has in common is that we all sort of probably got started by, watching other people do this sort of stuff, and maybe we're inspired to go do it. And then, just sort of went out and decided to do it. I always tell people that, if you're thinking about, whether it's blogging or videos or streaming or whatever, just do it. I mean, that's all I certainly did. I just felt like doing it and said, you know what, and put some thought into it, of course, but made a point to just, pick up a microphone and piece of paper and start writing things down and doing it.
Definitely. And your first episode or your first blog post or your first video is never going to be your best. Don't expect it to be. It's a learning experience. And my first one was what to do at level 65. And since then, about 30 or more episodes later, I got to redo that one. And I was surprised how much I'd learned in that year or so and how much better it got.
So now looking ahead, what sorts of things do you have planned for the SWTOR Academy? I saw you tweeted out earlier that you were gonna kind of take a little break just this week, and then we're gonna get back in. And you're gonna get back into it next week. So what do you have planned? What kind of upcoming things are you thinking about?
What I promised myself when I started working on videos is that I wouldn't do any really fun stuff. So I wouldn't do like my top 10 favorite armors or most awesome pets in the entire game kind of things. Nothing too fun like that, and stick to stuff that actually helps people versus stuff I actually wanted to do. And so now that I've covered most of the content in the game, except bits and pieces, I'm going to be doing more interesting stuff, or stuff that interests me rather. For example, I'm trying to do a series that's based around things you can get in the game that isn't from the cartel market, because I often see people saying, all the good stuff's in the cartel market, there's nothing in game that you can get, but I find that comes from a bit of just ignorance of all the crazy stuff that's available through Reputation, the events, the crafting system, stuff like that.
That would be perfect, and now's probably like a good time to do that, but with the new Manaan Stronghold, and people are trying to find all sorts of cool decorations to put in that new stronghold. There's like tons of stuff out there that's not related to the cartel market, but it's really spread out all over the place. It's very hard to find.
Definitely. There's so much stuff on the cartel market. That is not something I will ever deny, but there's also so much stuff available outside of it too.
Yeah, and like I said, it comes from crafting, those fabrication droids. There's Reputation. There's, I think, like on Odessin, for example, there's a vendor there that's got some cool decorations that you used to be able to buy for crystals that you can now buy for credits with the changes in 5.0. And, like I said, there's just little vendors and people like that throughout the galaxy.
I've got a list right here. You can get them from achievements. You can get them from conquest rewards, crafting from credits, from datacrons that are dropped into WoW, Eternal Championship, the Events Ambassador, Flashpoints, Fleet Commendations, the Intro Quest, Narshadon Life Event. Should I stop now or can we keep going?
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, I probably heard about 5 things. I should be writing all this down, but that's the beauty of audio. Is like I'll be able to go back and listen to it and then jot it down.
Because I'm going to do a bit of self-promotion. I am actually reading this off of a site that I made. It's kind of one of my silly side projects, more for me than for anyone else. It's called SWTORstrongholds.com, and that's where this entire list I'm reading off comes from.
And this is a site that you've put together?
Yeah, I wanted a way to learn how to use WordPress, and I figured a really good way to test it would be to make something I actually wanted to use. So there's a whole bunch of decorations and information about the strongholds and like decoration collections. Like I've made one specifically about all the Manaan decorations you can get.
That's very cool. So everyone, so if you're looking to decorate your new stronghold, go check that out. I'll certainly go check that out as soon as we're done here, because I'm playing around in that new stronghold, and I need some more inspiration and some more ideas. But do you ever worry that you'll run out of ideas or content to make videos? Does that ever concern you at all, or you think there's plenty of stuff?
Absolutely not. I worry more about getting them all done before the game is done. There's so much content in the game that I feel like I haven't covered yet. Like, I've got like 20 videos planned in that idea of things that I want to cover you can get outside the cartel market. I want to do ones about like the coolest things you should go see in the game, and videos about how to do all the different operations, and then maybe even cover the cartel market stuff. There's just, this game has such an incredible breadth of stuff in it.
It really does. And I think unlike other MMOs, I mean, so much of it I think appeals to like the player base at large. I mean, I think there are very few people that just focus on one element of this game. Like I played other MMOs where all I do is just maybe raid, and that's my primary focus, and I maybe just do 1, maybe 2 classes, and that's it. But whereas this game, I really try and experience the whole gamut of content and activities that it offers, from PvP to operations to, just the various stories, running around, doing achievements. I mean, there's so many things that I do in this game, that certainly keep me busy and are fun, and between group content and then stuff I like to do on my own as well. Are there any areas of the game that you haven't covered because you don't like that aspect of the game, or maybe you don't feel knowledgeable enough to do it justice?
I try to cover at least the basics of everything. I'm very bad at GSF. I'm in the stage where I'm still crashing into asteroids, and PvP is not my strongest point, but I tried to cover those at least to get people started because they were so requested. But one of the big requests that I get that I haven't found any videos to actually direct people towards is a lot of people ask, can you show me how to play my class specifically? Like, how do I play my Jedi Sentinel? How do I play my Sith Sorcerer? And I'm like, I'm really sorry. You press the 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons and that should get you by. That's about all the advice I have.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know myself. I mean, I guess you could always just go to YouTube and input certain classes. I've done that before, but yeah, I don't know that there's a dedicated individual or a person that I could think to point to learn about X class.
Yeah, because we have a lot of guides compiled on Dolphy, made by various people in the community, and Volk has quite a few of the classes covered, but there's nobody who actually has them all in a consistent kind of format. No,
there's not, and sometimes you'll find videos that, say that they're a guide of some kind, and it's really just someone running around in a war zone, with music overlaying it, and you have no idea
just press
what
1, 2, 3, 4.
What they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's what you end up doing. So yeah, but you said Dolphy, certainly they're not video guides, but the guides that people put up there are certainly a great place to start. Although I don't even know if they have a comprehensive, set of guides for each and every discipline out there.
I think she has most of them up there and definitely most of the popular ones. I'm pretty sure there's at least a couple still missing for 5.0 specifically. Less and less people are writing them. More and more people leave the game over time.
No, this is true. But one thing, if you are looking, don't forget, if you're looking for, say, like a Arsenal mercenary guide, and if you don't find one, don't forget there's the Republic Mirror, so there might be a gunnery commando guide out there, which is essentially the same thing. You just have to do the translation, yeah, of the abilities. And then you're good to go, because everything else should be the same. So in terms of the game itself, what types of activities do you like to do? Like, what's a typical week of playing SWTOR like for you? I
often hear people saying, I'm getting bored of the game. Am I doing something wrong? And I found I've never really been bored of this game because my interests seem to rotate about every 3 months. So I spent a lot of time in operations, in roleplay, in PvP, but right now I've been super into Stronghold specifically, and also because right now it's the summer of Star Wars The Old Republic. There's an event of some sort happening almost every week, so I've just been trying to check all of those out.
Yeah, there is. I mean, the nightlife event, which, a lot of people forget about. I think after that, they go crazy with it that first week, and then the second week you go down to the various casinos and nobody's there, but that's running through August. They haven't actually announced an end date, so I would imagine whenever 5.4 goes live
Yeah, they have a really good calendar of all the events up right now. I think if you Google SWTOR in-game events, you can see everything that's going on for the next couple months.
Yes, they do, and there's a bunch of stuff coming up, which I guess I would have, trying to think what's coming up. Oh, there's a double CXP event coming up.
Yes, everyone's hoarding their loot crates and their Command XP boosts for that date.
So that'll be exciting. I mean, you have I should say, how many characters do you have that are Command rank 300, or do you have any characters that are Command rank 300?
How many characters do I have that are over 100? That would be 0. My highest character is only about 50. Once 5.0 kicked in, my work schedule changed and I had to stop raiding. So I figured since there's nothing except the hardest operations that needs the best gear, I didn't worry too much about gathering it anymore. Especially because of the random aspect, it didn't appeal to me as much as trying to gain specific pieces of gear by doing certain operations.
Which has changed a lot, right? I mean, when Galactic Command was released at the very beginning, that was the only way that you could progress and get any kind of gear. And it was slow. It was miserably slow.
It was a very bad change that was not done well. Luckily, they've changed it quite a bit since then. It works mostly okay now. It has kind of the best of both worlds going on.
I think so. I think it's in a pretty good place. I think the next big change that folks are looking for is to see the unassembled components become a legacy-wide currency rather than be character-bound.
Yeah, I've seen that request a lot. Very common.
And I think they're indicated that they're planning to do that. They just haven't announced when. Maybe 5.4. We'll see that. That would probably be the next, certainly the next opportunity for them to introduce that change into the game. But other than that, now it's really not too bad, especially if you can get one character over the hump into Galactic Command Rank 300 and are earning those tier 4 crates. Then it becomes a lot easier to sort of gear up your alts. Like I'm done with my main characters. The only one I have that's Galactic Command Rank 300, but through running Ops and PvP, I can't get any more gear from him. He's done. So I've just been giving, hand-me-downs to all of my other characters. They're getting certainly the mods and enhancements. So I've got characters that are running around with, 246 mods and enhancements, and then have 230 armorings for their set bonuses, because you can get the tier 1 armor. You can just buy that straight up from the vendor now.
Yeah, that was a very good change. Made it a lot easier to get into the start of things.
It did. It was nice, although I feel like it sort of also made tier 1 really obsolete, because there's nothing in there for you to get gear-wise. Well, yeah, because you can buy the entire set with command tokens, which is great. I think it's an awesome thing, but now you're going through those first 100 ranks, and every piece of gear is just something you
already got.
Pretty much disintegrate. So you're just really trying to rush through it and get to the next tier. But now you can get drops from operations and things, and I don't know. I'm sure someone out there has mapped out like sort of the most efficient way, or sort of easiest way and efficient to gear up. But if you run like Eternity Vault and Karaga's Palace, certainly story mode will get you tier 2 gear, and hard modes, which really aren't that hard, will get you the 242, the tier 3. I mean, I don't think you can get every single slot out of those two, but you can get most of it. I mean, you can get really good start on your gear, and then probably supplement it fairly easily via PvP. So
definitely.
So let's see. So what other areas now of the community are you involved in besides the SWTOR Academy? You seem to have your hand in a bunch of different things.
I really enjoy the Star Wars: The Old Republic Reddit. I found it quite a while ago when I was kind of being a butt. I was trying to find a place to advertise one of my projects, and I was like, oh, this looks like a good place to spam it. But then I decided to wait and check it out first, and I decided I really liked the way discussions and news could be shared there, because it's a lot freer, because you don't have to be subscribed to actually talk there and like the official forums. And the way it works is that conversations that people are more interested in kind of tend to move to the top, versus the Star Wars: The Old Republic forums where it's just whoever posted first. It just makes for a really interesting dynamic. So I've been there a couple of years now, just paying attention, posting, sharing stuff there, and more recently I volunteered to help moderate it too.
I've seen that you're a moderator, and you've been very helpful there in allowing certainly us podcasters to be able to post our new episodes as they become available, and not get yelled at for just, flat out self-promotion, which it is and isn't. I mean,
we actually had a discussion between the mods. I brought the idea up because one of our video makers was frustrated because we had given him a spanking, I guess you could say, because we have to maintain a rule that Reddit has site-wide, that you can only share one self-promotion to every 10 comments or posts you leave that aren't related to you, so that you're not just spamming your own links. And we said, you can't do this, you're not allowed to do this. But pretty much everyone on the moderator team agreed that the kind of content that the community makes is almost exactly what we want on the Reddit for people to enjoy, share, and learn from. So we made a rule that you guys can post at least once a week. Have fun, no rules.
And it's much appreciated. I certainly appreciate it. And I do try and go. I certainly read a lot of the posts that are there, and then I am trying to get better at engaging in some of them and responding to them. And there's some good you can find some good discussions out there, right? It's not all just yelling and screaming and people complaining.
Yelling, screaming, tech support, and simple questions. This sums up the subreddit.
And people do share some good stuff. There's some fun screenshots but it's a good place to go, because if you're wondering, what types of things are on people's minds, or what's happening in the game, what sort of issues are popping up.
It's also the number one spot for news, because there's so many people posting to it, and because, like I said, discussions that are important move up to the top. Anytime there's something that's posted on the SWTOR Twitter, on the Dev Tracker, pretty much anywhere else, maybe on a major news site or something like that, it'll show up there and often be right near the top breaking news.
So it's good. So if you're not checking out the SWTOR subreddit, yeah, you should absolutely go and do that. You won't be disappointed. Don't think.
Right now, I think there's a screenshot of someone who in their Manaan Stronghold, they decided to put the decoration called the Garbage Fall, which is like a waterfall of garbage on the side of their Manaan Stronghold, and it's pouring garbage out into the ocean.
Oh, I'll have to go check that out. That's hilarious. That's awesome. I love it. It's at this pristine and beautiful place, and they've got garbage pouring out over it. Well, finally, before we move on, because I do want to talk about some of the game update 5.3 and get your impressions, I had one sort of final question to ask you, and that is, where do you stand on fiery groffits? Are you a save the groffits person, or do you disintegrate them into bacony goodness?
Groffits? Do you mean the RNG monsters of the depths and the filthy hell of Rishi?
Yes, those are the ones.
Oh, yeah, they're fine. They're adorable. We can keep them.
See, I disintegrate them. There are a lot of people that just they'll get them out of their command crates and they refuse. They'll just, even though they don't need them and all their alts and their tunes have them, they just can't get rid of them. And I'm just like,
I bought mine off the GTN. I adopted it from someone
Did you
else.
Really? That's so funny. But no, I mean, for me, this 2017, I can sum it up as the Great Fiery Groffit Massacre. I don't think I've killed this many Groffits since I was trying to get the Datacron on Rishi, back in the day. So I definitely do not save them. Cool. So let's talk about game update 5.3, Sisters of Carnage. And I think you mentioned before, obviously one of the big features of the Manaan Stronghold, and you haven't spent too much time in yours just yet. You were busy and kind of waiting for the weekend. So
yeah, I've been binging on other people's screenshots and reviews of it. There's a really good review of the whole Stronghold on tour-decorating.com for anyone who's wondering if they should buy it or not. And so far, I've heard really good things from people, and I've opened up the first room, and it's a really nice looking area.
Yeah, the first entrance area is very nice. The lighting in it is really good. I mean, I think it'll be a good place for people to want to take screenshots and stuff. I know Tatooine for many years has sort of been the go-to place if you want to show off something and take a good screenshot.
I never thought of that. That'd
stuff.
Be great, especially if you have your character up on the ledge with the ocean in the background, huh?
Yeah, so I think the lighting is just about perfect for that, which is nice. I love the Stronghold. It's not too big. I mean, I think probably some people would prefer, maybe, it depends. It's all subjective, right? Whether you like really big strongholds or really small. This is kind of medium sizes. So I think it was just the right size for me. So I was pretty happy, with that. But it's got a lot of hooks. Like in order to get to 100% completion, I think there's like 650 decorating hooks.
I hope you have a lot of basic chairs to put in there.
Yeah, exactly. And just to put that in comparison, I think Yavin 4 had like 750 hooks to get it to 100% completion. So this isn't too far behind it, although it's a much smaller space. I'm like 35% complete with mine, and I feel like I'm running out of room to put stuff, or at least to show things off. I'm just like trying to figure.
Have you found the special hooks that aren't quite in the Stronghold yet?
I know where the Starship hook is. Beyond that, no. I'll have to go look and see where some of those others are.
I have heard that you can place decorations into the water outside your Stronghold.
Oh, well, that I know about. Yes, that's very cool. That'll be pretty obvious to see, which is kind of neat. In fact, I've got HK55 and Zoom
swimming
walking
outside
around the ocean floor. Yeah, just like the good old days from just like they did for that the HK55 story chapter. So I did something there where I could put them out there. But yeah, that is kind of neat. I do like the fact that you can put them underwater there in that deep sea sanctuary area of the Stronghold, which is really nice. The only thing I don't like about that is I wish the windows there were a little bit bigger. They're kind of narrow and probably actually more representative of what you would see in an actual underwater environment. But it'd be nice if they were more bigger and more panoramic.
We
but
have
other
sci-fi.
than that,
We can support water pressure here.
Exactly. So yeah, overall, I think they did a nice job with it. Like I said, I just got to get it to and it does look like it counts towards your conquest. So that'll be another 25% bonus to your conquest if you get it 100% decorated.
I know you mentioned Zoom outside. Do you have any other themes for your Stronghold? I've been doing mine, or I'm planning to do mine to be like a an arc for when Valkorion takes over the galaxy again and destroys all life. I'm going to put a whole bunch of the animal mounts down there and one of every pet so that we can go and take their DNA when the rest of the galaxy dies.
Oh, that's very cool. So yeah, I have sort of come up with an outline of a theme that I'd like to do for my stronghold, and I'm working towards that. I still need to get some more decorations, but like the main entrance area is more like a plaza, like a resort. So I put the luxury spa there, some gambling tables, some of the bars and things right up front. So as you're looking out at the ocean, it's kind of a place, you know.
That is perfect stronghold for a spa. It's like the one that fits the best. It's all serene and lovely and clean.
It really is. And so that's why I sort of decided to do that right up front. That's also, and off to the side there in the front, is where I have my utility stuff, you know, your cargo holds and the GTN kiosk and stuff like that. So I like to do that close to when I enter the stronghold, so I don't have to, although I do have it set up in another section as well, because unlike Yavin 4, where there's plenty of places where you can just kind of jump to your death and not get penalized for spawning back in the beginning, Manaan, it doesn't really have that option.
I'm going to teach you a beautiful trick. You can slash stuck in your stronghold and it puts you right back at the beginning.
Oh, I'm writing this down. That's very cool. I learned something new after 5 years. At this point, I'm not really amazed at how many new things that I learned how to do week in and week out with this game. But that's good to know. But as far as the interior areas, when you get down below, to the Deepwater Sanctuary, so there's a room with a sort of a glass bottom floor that looks down into the ocean. So I've kind of made a little sitting room out of there, and I've loaded it up right now with all sorts of like Sith, Jedi artifacts, just artifacts, things that I would have collected. I think I have like a Rishi lamppost, you know, things that I would have encountered on various adventures. And it's all very cluttery and scattered about. And I put a bar there and stuck Taylor Strelick in.
Kind of like a treasures and memories bar going on there.
It is. It's really like a little adventures club, and I put Taylor Strelick there, and I figure, you know, he's got a story that he can tell you about every little thing. He's the expert. I can just point to something, and he can just tell me where did it come from and what's the story behind it, and figure it'd be a good way to spend an evening. And then off to the side, I've got Dr. Loken's creepy science lab.
Wonderful. You got the Rakghoul table with the dead Rakghoul on it?
Yeah, the Rakghoul table. He's hovering over it, and other lab type equipment and stuff like that's in there. And then the other side was just office / sleeping areas. That's my personal quarters. So that's what I'm sort of doing with the stronghold. And then the rooftop garden will be sort of just a relaxing sort of place. I'm trying to make it into a lot of plants, bushes, things, trying to make it into an actual garden area. And then the main room up there, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. It's a giant room, but I think it needs more hooks. I'm having a hard time finding just what I want to do with that. But I do have one of the windows where I have Ark and Insenia kind of staring out into the ocean.
I saw your wonderful screenshot of that. You posted it on your Twitter, I believe. It's Ark and Insenia, and their backs are turned, and they're both just standing by the window. And I can't imagine if you'd taken the other choice in the story, they would not be together like that.
That's true. I guess they wouldn't. And I've done both. I've done both options on different tunes, but then my main tune, I just couldn't do it. I really liked, you know, at the end of Knights of the Fallen Empire, like when you had the option to shoot at their shuttle, I didn't even hesitate.
I haven't chosen that option yet. I haven't done the dark side of anything yet.
Yeah. So the first time I did it on my main tune, I was like, yeah, I was so mad. I took the shot, and then, when we got into Knights of the Eternal Throne, and after I saw like the video, with Senya and Valen that they did the sort of the cinematic that they had come up with, and then just starting the story, and saw that, oh wow, she's just really being a mom and who just
trying to save
has
her
this
kid.
Unconditional love for her children. I mean, and doing everything it takes. I just had this great respect. And I was really appreciative that they chose to go down explore that sort of aspect, of these characters in a Star Wars story. Because I always say, you know, Star Wars is a galaxy of just terrible parents. These children end up doing all sorts of terrible things and run into all sorts of issues. It's this galaxy of bad parents, and people have daddy issues, and they decided to explore this son, mother-daughter relationship, which is something I don't think I'd really seen in a Star Wars story. So that was something I appreciated with what they had done with the story. So the other thing that was released was Aivela and Esne. I have not done the encounter yet. I don't know if I think there were some intro videos that are, early videos that you got a chance to take a look at with some of the folks.
Yeah, I got a chance to try it out on the public test server, and I believe it was exactly the same as the fight that came out because I tried it very late in the game, and it's a crazy fight. I got to try Tithe out too, and Tithe is pretty cool, lots of stuff going on, but when I went to do Aivela and Esne, I had no idea what was going on. I was running around in circles, I was dying a lot. It's a crazy fight.
So do you think it's too easy, too hard, too complex, or is it just a matter of once you get the mechanics down, you'll be fine, which is true with any fight, but I think that it's sort of controlled chaos versus, just everything.
It is definitely a very mechanics heavy fight, so you have to understand the mechanics and you also have to react to the mechanics, and it's more than just the watch your feet of the old days. Would you like me to tell you a bit about the fight?
Sure.
The fight is based a lot on colors. Basically, you'll go and pick up an item that lets you switch between red and blue. I assume they have lore reasons to them, and you have to switch your colors between the red and the blue at certain times of the fight, and if you don't, you will almost automatically die, even in story mode. So to give an example, if it's too easy or too hard, on the first version I was playing as a DPS and running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and we were able to pass it without too much trouble. When I was doing it the second time around as a tank, we died in the first 3 minutes or so. So it's definitely one, if you're working with a team, you're going to have some time to learn. If you're doing it with a pickup group, I don't think I would want to do this fight with a pickup group at all. It's very unforgiving.
Yeah, I think mechanics heavy fights with people where you're not in voice chat or can't communicate can really pose a challenge, especially if the mechanics are unforgiving, right? Sometimes you can do stuff with those Star Wars: The Old Republic, they don't really do that here, but other games where they water down those initial mechanics such that you can go with a random group of people, and even if you stand in something or get hit by something, the damage is so little, it doesn't matter.
I absolutely can't imagine this fight in hard mode. I can't imagine all that plus the hard mode DPS and any other mechanics they decide to throw into the pot if this is story mode. It's going to be fun for anyone who tries it out. It's a very chaotic fight.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to it. I've seen the video that you were involved in, and I've seen a couple others as well. So I have and read the guide that was up on Dolphy. So I certainly have an idea of what's involved. So hopefully this weekend I'll get a chance to take a look at it and experience it. But as you say, yeah, story mode sounds like it'll be challenging at first, and then, as you say, hard mode. And then eventually I think they're going to plan to release master modes for all this. So who knows what level of difficulty those will be like. And also in 5.3, there were the class changes. I don't really have to see. I play lots of different tunes, but my main tune is an Arsenal Merc. And I know they got hit pretty hard.
How
and
are
I've talked
you feeling?
about that.
Are you doing okay?
I think I'm doing fine. I mean, I suppose, if I were to actually use a tool like Star Parse and look at the numbers before and after, I probably would cry a little bit, maybe. But I ran, just KP hard mode as an example with folks in my guild, and I don't feel like I was being carried. I mean,
I can only imagine the people who see it the most are those who PvP at a high level and those who do progression rating, because all of a sudden you've been doing the same numbers for the last couple of weeks and now you're down.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that at all. And I haven't done any PvP yet this week. I've been just too busy decorating that stronghold. Plus,
peaceful way to play.
Yeah, the peaceful way to play. Plus, the group finder for the operations was broken, so they finally fixed that on Thursday. But that was weird.
All kinds of issues going on, yeah.
Well, the odd thing about that was it broke prior to game update 5.3, which was I couldn't quite figure that out yet. And I do a lot of IT stuff. I'm in software development. So anytime something breaks, the first thing I ask is, well, what changed? Something had to have changed.
And the answer is we have no idea.
Exactly. So if this had happened after 5.3, I get it, right? I understand. I know. And, and software is funky that way. You can make a change in Michigan and then break something in California. And, and that's just the way it is. But to have it sort of break prior to the game update, I was scratching my head a little bit about I wonder what really happened there. some sort of strange condition or something about the rotation.
The Firaxa sharks ate the list of operations.
I guess so, but they're back now, which is great because we do a lot of lockout runs and things like that in the guild that I'm in. But yeah, basically, but back to, you know, I think there's a lot of content for which these class changes don't matter as much. It's not that getting nerfed is ever fun, but there's a lot of things you can just continue to do like you were doing before and just have a fun time doing it.
Definitely. I always see people ask, what class is good? What class is bad? And the answer is always, pick the one that seems fun, because unless you're doing the master mode rating or ranked PvP, it literally does not matter.
I tend to agree with that too. You know, I haven't done much with the master uprisings or master flashpoints, and maybe, I don't know how, I've done a couple master uprisings. We usually do that, you know, we usually pop into fractured, every week just to get the weekly done, because it's a quick way to get the weekly done. And that's not bad at all. So I assume the others are probably somewhat similar, but I mean, that might be a scenario where you might notice a difference, but I think for the most part, there's just a lot of content where you're not really no one's gonna look at you and not take you because you're on like an Arsenal merc. You know, they're still gonna let you in the door and let you in their group, and, you know, hopefully you'll have a good time. So that's really it for 5.3 that I think you wanted to go over. There was one other thing that I thought would be worth discussing, which was this whole crystal tuning change that came about. And I think I saw you had responded a little bit and gotten some conversations over on the SWTOR subreddit this week.
Yeah, this was such a weird situation. Basically, what players were doing is that the way the collection system is, anytime you use an item that's from the cartel market, you can use a whole armor set or a mount or a crystal or anything like that, and it'll unlock you in your collections. And then you can even destroy that original item, because on that character you'll get as many free copies as you want. Very useful for like crystals, or if you just want to throw away a outfit and get it later and not have it clutter up space. And what players were doing is they were throwing it into legacy weapons, and legacy weapons were always meant to be used to share between characters. But when you take that crystal out on another character, then you get unlimited crystals in your collection there, and you can get it on your mercenary, and you can get it on your Jedi Consular, and so on and so on. And this is a very, very long-running issue, I guess you could call it. And I guess BioWare didn't mind about it too much to patch it up, or maybe they weren't aware. We're not quite sure. But recently, people were doing it with the weapon tunings because they got added to collections, and this caught BioWare's attention because the weapon tunings are so incredibly expensive to start with, and now people could get unlimited copies for all their characters if they got at least one. Right,
and like I said, it was a long-standing issue, and in fact, if for the folks that listened to episode 45, which I did last week, I sort of pointed to a post that Eric Musco had done. Granted, it was 4 years ago. This was back in May of 2013, where someone had asked about whether or not duping crystals using legacy weapons to do this was an exploit, and he basically said, no, it's not. It's like, and he said, transferring a crystal from your collection and putting it in a legacy weapon and giving it to another character was not an exploit. And, I sort of a green light to go ahead and continue to do that. In fact, that's what I was doing for a long time. I had a full legacy cargo hold full of legacy weapons with various color crystals, some that I've added to collections on tunes, and just that's what I would do. If I was a color I wanted on a particular character, I'd just go into my cargo hold, pull out the legacy weapon, pull out the crystal, and it would be added to that character's collection. So it's something that was known about. It was kind of acknowledged years ago, and I'm just, was never ever really, I think they sort of came out and said it was not an exploit, and then they seem to have sort of changed their tune, over tunings, this past week. So, do you think it should have been fixed, or did they have left it alone, or?
I always felt like having unlimited crystals from one on all your characters did seem kind of like an issue, but I figured if it was an issue in BioWare's eyes, they would have said something or fixed something way before this.
Yeah, that's my take on it too. I always say, if something feels like it's too good to be true, then it probably is too good to be true, and you usually expect this type of thing to get fixed, if it walks like an exploit, if it talks like an exploit, it's probably an exploit. And this was something that, I can't really get mad over them fixing something that seemed very screwy to me, you know, that probably should never have been in the game in the first place.
Yeah, I have absolutely no issue with them fixing it, and I kind of wish they had fixed it a long time ago so this never came up in the first place. But at the same time, all of the processes in this supposed exploit or loophole are just normal processes of the game. You can get unlimited crystals and any items from your Cartel Market collections. You can put stuff into your legacy items and move them over. You can take stuff out of your legacy items, and what's weird is the fact that they actually unlock the unlimited copies that way. But I mean, you could always just make the extras on your main character to start with, so I'm not quite sure how you would even fix that to start with, but the solution they picked kind of broke things more than it fixed things.
It did, because now you can't, so if you've got a crystal or a tuning in the legacy weapon, you can't send it to another tune, right? I guess it shows up as bound. It basically treats it as if it's not a legacy item, which means you then have to spend the credits to remove said items from the legacy weapon if you want to.
But they're looking into that, aren't they? They're looking to make some changes.
Yes, they are. And I said, here's what Keith wrote. He said, this change did create a situation for all of us who are using collections properly, where there is an added step and credit cost to moving weapons. Our plan with patch 5.4 in August is to resolve this new issue by allowing collection unlocked crystals and tunings to be transferred using your legacy weapons as you did previously. No cost / no removing of the items first.
That's still kind of a pain in the butt. I feel like if you buy, let's say you earned a really cool Gree legacy weapon, and obviously it's a legacy weapon, you bought it because you want to use it between multiple characters, maybe your Jedi Consular and your Inquisitor, and then you go on the Cartel Market and you buy a super cool crystal that you got, then you put it in that weapon and you still can't transfer it. Like, I agree you shouldn't be able to get your unlimited copies from it, but I don't understand why you still can't use it that way.
Yeah, and I guess the hard part is, even if you couldn't get your unlimited copies, I mean, how do you prevent you from equipping that weapon?
I've heard some really good suggestions. The best one I think I've seen so far is that crystals would act like dies, that when you remove them, they are destroyed. So on your main character, that's literally no issue because they already have the unlimited copies unlocked. So if you're on your Jedi Consular and they're the first person to use the crystal, then you can put the crystal in, send it over to your Inquisitor, but if the Inquisitor tries to take it out to get unlimited copies, it just gets destroyed. And even if you destroy it, you can always send that lightsaber back to your Consular and they can get their crystal back too, unlike dies, which are one use and they're not in collections at all.
And I guess the only downside to that is that you would still be able to equip the weapon if that's the weapon you wanted to use, and then you could use it, I suppose.
I don't see that's why an issue. It's a legacy weapon.
You can use it and basically, as if, even though that crystal's not in that character's collection, as long as you're using that particular weapon, it's as if you own the crystal, right? You know, you're still going to run around with that white crystal, you know, emanating from your lightsaber.
But you could not put it in the super cool Calig's lightsaber that you earned on your Inquisitor.
That's true. You would be stuck with that one particular weapon and that one particular crystal. And so, yes, there would definitely be some limitations to it there. I'm just trying to think where else they might run into issue. And the only other thing where that might be a problem down the road, and I don't know if they're going to do this, but when Charles Boyd made his triumphant return to the forums, it was in the context where he mentioned they were going to try and get weapons into the outfit designer, possibly this year.
Please.
It didn't make it into Keith's roadmap, so I don't know where it fits, if it's still on the radar, or maybe it's, you know, we are going to get more updates to the overall roadmap as this year progresses. So
if they do it within the next 2 years, I will be happy, because when the outfit designer first came out, it was pretty much this is never going to happen. It's just not going to work that way.
It was. They came out and flat out said it, yeah, that there was technical limitations to it, or I don't know. I think that was probably the main reason for why they couldn't do it, and they never indicated that they had any plans to resolve it. And then all out of the blue, he's hinted that they would like to do it. Now, would them liking to do it and able to do it, or when they get to it, many very different things.
I have a strong suspicion it's one of those solutions that they can do it. They don't know exactly how, but they figure they can. It's just not worth the man hours in terms of the return.
All right. Well, we're running up close to an hour here. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was awesome. In fact, it was so good, I'll probably have to just delete it and not publish it at all because every episode I do from here on out will just sound terrible compared to this one. So how ironic. You were instrumental in elevating the podcast to prominence, and now you'll be responsible for my epic fall.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, and I'm looking forward to your 50th episode.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's coming up in just a few more weeks, as well as the 1-year anniversary of my doing the podcast. So, and again, thank you for coming on, and you are welcome to come back anytime you feel like. Just drop me a note and say, hey, I feel like coming on the podcast and talking about stuff, and I'll be more than happy to have you on. Thanks again so much. And with that, it is definitely time to cue the music and congratulate you on surviving another hour listening to episode 46 of the State of the Old Republic podcast. I'm your host, Ted, and I thank you for tuning in. You can find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, and Buzzsprout. You can also listen to the show directly from the show's site, which is SWTORpodcast.com, and there is an RSS feed where you can subscribe to the podcast directly. If you have a question for the show, you can email me at SWTORpodcast@gmail.com, and I promise I will read it and answer it on an episode. You can also tweet your questions to @SWTORpodcast, and be sure to follow me on Twitter to get the latest information on the show. Look for episode 47 on July 25th, 2017, and remember the Sith code, cake is a lie.